it's Alex and I'm here in my hallway, and one of my first videos I did on the channel, and one of the reasons I started doing the channel was to help people. One of my first videos was pumping up suspension on Peggy, and it wasn't the best quality, so I'm gonna try and do that video again so it's a bit clearer. First things first, measure your car up. I know a lot of people will say, oh, your suspension needs to be regassed if it hasn't been regassed. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if your car does this, your suspension's fine for now. But if you want to get the ride height right, measure it. Now, if you get an Allegro Club International tape measure, it actually tells you what the measurements should be. So early cars like Peggy should be 373 millimeters. Later cars were a little bit lower for some reason, I don't know why, and they were 366 millimeters. Now, to make life easier, I've put a little bit of tape just here to mark off where the measurement is, so I don't have to keep looking for the little black lines because of my sight. So I need to measure now, and I'll show you, between the hubcap centre and the edge of the wheel arch. State the obvious, make sure the car's on a nice flat ground, and then we want to get the end of the tape measure as much in the middle as you can. You can feel, if you've got these types of hubcaps on, you can feel there's a little dimple, a little nipple. Try and hold that on there best you can. So you can see Peggy is down a little bit. She needs, what, gosh, almost an inch, isn't it? Something like that. Yeah, pretty much an inch she needs to go up on this side. So you have to remember the Allegro suspension is done sided. So the front sphere is linked to the back sphere, and then the other side is separate, again front to back. So if something fails on this side, the car will go lopsided. So we don't need to measure the back wheel arch, it's the front one we're measuring. So I'll go and measure the other side now. And of course it's raining. It always rains when Peggy's out. I've told you that before. This side looks even further out. Yeah, that's over an inch out, that is. If you've got one side lower than the other, and you haven't checked recently, it's worth checking along all the pipes just to make sure there's not a little weeping pinprick hole in the fluid pipes. I have checked Peggy over and there's no sign of any leaks, so I don't know why she's gone down really. I guess the gas has dispersed and the fluids took over, but she's still got a good bounce. It's flipping raining. I just want to pump my suspension up. Can't do it in the rain, you'll get water in the hydrolastic fluid. Fine then, I'll just show you what you get if you borrow the pump from the Allegro Club, which you're most welcome to do if you're a member. Just email into the spares team and I'm sure we can arrange it so you can borrow it. It's a nice little pump. I'd quite like to buy one myself actually. There's the hydrolastic fluid which you get to take with you as well, because you don't want to buy a whole flipping container just for yourself really. You only need, what, that much? Tiny bit. So you get the fit-in pipe that fits onto the pump and fits onto the Allegro. You get a tape measure that's got the measurements on it. You get a little broken spanner. It's an 18mm, but it makes life easier being like that because you get to do this up in a tight space. A little rag just to catch any dribbles, and then the pump itself. There we go. So the pump itself, what you'll do is attach the pipe to it. I'm just saying how to prep the pump here. Attach the pipe to it, make sure the little valve is closed, Fluid, you can bring it up to what, here. You really don't want a lot. Do not fill it. Just bring it up above this line here so the pump picks it up. But you won't need a lot, I doubt, unless you're changing the fluid, which you can use this to draw the old fluid out. But I'm not doing that today. I'm just showing you how to top up the ride height, really. It won't stop raining. The sun's come out, but it's still raining. I've got to make this quick because it's just stopped raining and I think it's going to rain again. So under the bonnet you should see this pipe here going into the sphere. It goes down into a box that's got a valve on it that looks like a tyre valve, and it should have a little cap on that you should be able to get off easily enough. There you go, just like a valve cap off your tyres, because that's what it is, it's a valve. And then over here, this one's a little bit, well, I would say a little bit more awkward, not too bad. Again, you've got another valve cover. We'll just whip them off out the way so we don't lose them. Right, just getting the pump ready. So I've just screwed this end on. Don't want to be silly tight, but you do want it tight. So that's on. Valve closed. Pop some fluid in. Not a lot. Look at the colour of it. Honestly, you really don't want a lot. And if you can, tilt the pump so it all runs to where, you know, the stuff is. Right, we're ready to go on the car. So, hopefully you can see okay. The camera is balanced down here. We're going to get our little valve thingy-bob down here. Careful that you're not tipping the pump over on the floor. And be careful, you don't want to force it because you could risk snapping the valve, and we don't want to snap in the valve, do we? Oof. It is a bit fiddly, I must say. I would probably recommend that you wear gloves, but me being me, stubborn as anything, I'm not wearing gloves. But I will wipe the fluid off of my fingers within an instant, so I don't want to have hydrolastic fluid on us. I would imagine it is quite harmful, some kind of hydraulic fluid. Nearly lost my valve cap then, did you hear it? Here it is. Don't lose that. Right, so I've put it on finger tight, and now we're just going to nip it on with a spanner. With your little broken spanner, gets in there nicely. And again, we don't want to go too tight because you risk snapping the valve, and don't want to be snapping any valves. So now that's done, you can now turn this so it opens the valve basically. You might feel the car go down a little bit because it's let a bit of fluid out of the system into the pipe for the pump, but don't worry about it because we're pumping it up, aren't we? So we're just going to put it back. So just to go through that again, we've got pipe attached to the pump, this valve closed. We've then attached, we've made sure that this bit was wound out. before you fit it to the car, so that was out. And then we fit this to the valve on the car. We then wind that in. You'll feel the car go down and you hear a little hiss. And now we're ready for pumping. So I'm hoping you'll see the car go up. It's got quite a way to go. We might have to put some more fluid in. So, give it a pump. Going out, a little bit more to go. I think we'll put a little bit more fluid in because we don't want to pump air into her. Peggy now resembles a monster truck. Once you've pumped the car up, you need to then do what they call a scrag. Scragging the car. I don't know where the saying comes from. It comes from the factory, I think. Don't hold me on that, but that's what I was told. Grab hold of the side of the car and give her a good shake. By doing that, apparently it sort of equalises the front and rear sphere, moves the fluid, I don't know, but it helps. We just give it the final measurement. So after the scrag, she's actually a little bit too high on this side. We can let some out. We'll just use this little valve down here. So I've just let a bit out and I'm going to give it another scrag. Perfect. So now you can see the edge of the wheel arch is pretty much in line with that tape. It hasn't got to be perfect, but what you don't want to do is get the other side too wrong, if that makes sense. They need to be right, but that is spot on. Now I'm going to show you how to safely remove the pump without jeopardising your suspension. So we'll turn the little T-piece at the end so it comes out, and what that does, it closes the valve on the car so it won't let fluid in or out. That's that. Then once you've wound the T-piece out, you need to remove any pressure and fluid out of this pipe. So, do that. And you see the gauge go down, and all the fluid now is there. So we can leave that open for a minute, because as we move the pipe, we want any fluid to go down back into the reservoir. I've noticed some dirt's got in there. I'll have to get that out. Bloody dead flies or something. So going through that again, you've wound this one completely out. You've then opened the valve on the pump itself, and now we can undo this safely, and we're not going to get covered in fluid. So crack it off with the spanner, and we should be able to just undo it by hand. You might get a bit of fluid dribble, that's why they give you the little blue cloth. So the little blue cloth you can put under here. So as you're undoing it, it's awkward. I'm trying to show you on the camera as well. Yeah, it's a bit awkward. But yeah, you can have that nearby in case you get a dribble. I'm left-handed, you see. It's easily coming undone when I use my left hand. Ta-da! Look at that, I didn't even lose a dribble. Fantastic. So if you haven't lost your little cap, pop your little cap back on. And that's that side of the car done. Fantastic. I don't know if you can see now, but see, she's lopsided because I've only pumped the one side up. So I'll just quickly go over this side with you, just quickly. So before you do anything, make sure you've closed that valve back up, because obviously you had it open on the other side to relieve the pressure. So make sure you close that back up. Then fit it to the car with your little spanner, and then you can try and get your hand in there. And we want to open up the car's valve, and we do that by turning this one. And again, you feel the car go down a little bit. It's quite nice to do that, because you know it's opened and you know it's working. And there we are ready for pumping again. So there we are, Peggy is now jacked up like a monster truck. I've just been on both sides and re-measured it to make sure they're equal. I noticed this one was down a little bit, so I let that one down a little bit just so they matched. Just every time you make an adjustment, and before you check it with the tape measure, just make sure you do shake it about, give it a scrag. But I'm happy with that. Got my little monster truck back. So we'll go through pump removal process again. Get your hand in there. We want to release this valve so it closes the valve on the car suspension. That's that. And then open this valve to relieve pressure. Lovely. I'll leave that open, and then we can remove this fella, crack it off with a spanner. Nice. And then undo him. Oh, I can't do it one hand. But yeah, then you can undo that and put your valve cap back on. So there we are. It wasn't too hard, was it? In regards to regassing the suspension, I think your car bounces easily like that, I wouldn't bother. I really wouldn't bother. You can't get much more bouncy than that. Do you want me to compare the Allegro suspension to my Rover P4? P4's on coil springs on the front with shock absorbers. Let's see if she bounces. No. If your Allegro does that, then there's something wrong with your Hydragas spheres. But no, if it's bouncy like Peggy, I wouldn't worry about it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.